Now, for me, as the Karpov-Kasparov World Championships
Right.
were really the time that I came into chess,
Right.
my maturity, watching those matches. And talk about classic. I mean, it starts right away. Good guy, bad guy. I'm rooting for Kasparov immediately.
Right.
Good, right or wrong.
Right.
Because he's the young gun going what it looks like against the old guard.
Right.
And also somehow against the Soviet establishment.
Right.
Somehow.
The rebel.
Maybe it's not the right storyline.
Right.
Maybe it's a little bit of propaganda. But that's what it feels like. And he has come on like a storm.
Right.
And you know, because you played him. I mean, he was 22 years old competing against this Karpov guy who has been dominant for 10 years.
Exactly. So we have 5 world championship matches between these two extraordinary chess players who are extraordinarily different chess players as well. So there is Anatoly Karpov, which to me, as a player, he's like the pinnacle of the positional, scientific, technical school, from Steinitz to Botvinnik to literally Anatoly
Petrosian.
Yeah,
We got to throw him in there.
to Anatoly Karpov. He is standing, on top of the shoulders of giants, and his technique, his practical play. He played very quickly. He was just a phenom. I mean, where was his weaknesses? How do you beat this guy? This guy's just incredible. And then there's this Garry Kasparov character. A page right out of the Michael Tal book.
Alekhine School. Alekhine was his favorite
School.
player.
And chaos. And they start their first match, 1984, under the rules that you gotta win 6. You gotta win 6 games. Draws don't count. 5-5, you play to the 6th victory. So you gotta win 6. And it's like after 9, Karpov is just dominating this guy. He's up like 4-zip. And after 28 games, it's 5-zip. 5-zip. I consider Garry Kasparov a GOAT, the GOAT, the greatest of all times. But he's losing that first match 5-zip.
Well, he had beaten other players, but he had never faced somebody like Karpov. And Karpov was making it look easy.
Easy.
But then apparently Kasparov made a phone call to Moscow, called up his old trainer, Mikhail Botvinnik, who told me he had to stabilize things and make some draws.
Right.
And then we just kept seeing draw.
Draw after draw.
It was like
after
17 straight draws.
a rear guard action.
I mean, games that were just finishing quickly. And
Right.
now the chess world was wondering
Right.
what's going on.
Right.
The match has passed a month. And
2
it's going
months,
into
3 months.
And we're going, what's going on? Is anybody ever going to win this? And
Right.
they're saying Karpov is looking like he's at the door of death itself.
Right.
The weight he's losing from the stress, unable to break through this youngster and win one more game.
Right. So it was game 32. That's he's supposed to win. I mean, he's going to win game 32. He has a winning position. Does Anatoly Karpov. If he wins that game, match is over, 6-zip. I don't think we ever hear from Garry Kasparov again. I think
That's
it
a
was
serious statement. Really?
Yeah, he's lost. I mean, it's an easy demonstrable win. But somehow Garry saves that, then finally gets on the board with a victory. And then comes games 47 and 48.
Which you just jumped. Because
Yeah,
there
I
was
just jumped.
a lot more
Draws.
draws in between.
That was the rear guard action of the 15, 16, 17 straight draws that you were just mentioning. And then he puts through back-to-back victories. Does Garry Kasparov. And now the match is 5-3, but it's gone 6 months. Actually, it was kind of funny because do you remember the days of Ronald Reagan when there were so many people who were dying in the Soviet Politburo that he was complaining, every time I establish a relationship with one of the premiers, he dies, and they were playing in the Hall of Columns. Hall of Columns. These big columns, these big marble columns where they would bury these leaders. Anyway, the point was the match was being held in this very, very prestigious venue. And it went for like 16 months, 6 months.
Was it 6 months?
6 months.
I know it was a long match.
6 months, sorry, I went 16. 6 months. My friend, our friend, Jonathan Tisdall, was there. He learned Russian. He was like the Reuters AP guy, stationed in Moscow. He thought he was there for a chess match. He stayed there for 6 months.
And trying to organize such a match, give it a FIDE at least its due. Right. You're trying to run such a match, and the match never ends. You say this cannot possibly happen. All those draws. When you think about something like Chigorin Steinitz, for example, Chigorin versus Steinitz, they had a match that was 17 games long, and the first 16 games were decisive.
Exactly. One draw game.
One draw was the last game.
Right.
It's just guys now have a match where there's so many draws really did seem unimaginable.
Exactly. And so there was a big problem. Nobody's saying there wasn't a big problem, but the match score was 5-3 when the president of the FIDE, Florencio Campomanes, made a very controversial decision. He annulled the match. He just said, that's it, match is over. We're going to play a new match starting at 0-0, but we're going to go back to the old rules of 24 games. So Karpov, of course, protested. He said, look, I'm leading 5-3. All I got to do is win one game. Garry says, that's fair, let's go. And then comes the second match, and Garry wins, becoming the youngest world champion in the history of our sport.
And then that starts a series like we have never seen and probably will never
87.
see again. The same two guys fight for the world championship 5 matches in a row. It's whether Karpov has to win the last game or Garry has to magically win the last game in order to tie the match to keep his title.
Everything you can imagine.
I mean, they were separated by something like one game.
After
all the matches, all the games that they played, their score was that close. Garry might be the greatest player of all time, but there was this one guy who he was not able to dominate.
Exactly. And statistically, it was just a push. And yet, having said that, stylistically, you couldn't have two more opposed players. Anatoly was this incredible technician. Garry, this incredible tactician.
So you had basically an immovable force versus an unstoppable object. And the two of them showed us matches that will sit forever in the history of chess, with some games that will sit forever as well. The two of them really played classic matches, vintage matches that will go down as some of the greatest in the history of chess.